welcome to Comicverse lore, where I explain the lore of my series, the Comicverse, which is a series of like fan fictions based off all sorts of things. But I'd say mainly MLP is my main focus. Although Adrian, my friend, is helping me, and he puts a lot of other stuff in it, with my permission, of course. Alright, so anyway, with Phase 1 almost coming to an end, I wanted to start a lore series for those that either don't like reading or want to learn more from the comic verse. So, who is Comic Field? Well, the character, not me IRL. So the first episode is going to be about the character Comic Field, which the universe is named after. Well, let's start with the basics. Comic Field is a unicorn stallion coming from the noble house of Field. The Field family are a family of Shadhivar unicorns, originally hailing from the western Zebraca. Stradhavar unicorns are a race of carnivorous unicorns, yes, carnivorous, they eat meat, from Abyssinia's Persia province. That's Persia with a U, not an E. Abyssinia is actually populated with cat people, but Shadhavar's always been an ethnic minority within the Abyssinian Empire. The Field family eventually migrated to Equestria in the 800s AD. After 2 generations, the great Novel Field was born. Novelfield was the best general in equestrian history, leading Equestria to enlarging 3 times its size and spanning most of the southern continent. Since then, after Novel had passed, his family still had influence in the Interlot nobility and has close ties to the royal family. This is especially true about a millennia later, when Nuclear Field, who is Comic Field's grandfather, had invented and distributed chemical weapons for use in the equestrian army. Celestia was skeptical of these weapons, which is why they're rarely ever used. 2 generations later, Comic Field was born. Comic was mostly unaware of his ancestry and of Novelfield. In fact, he thought Novelfield was a myth up until the age of 12. While Novel was more into fighting with weapons and with his hooves, Comic wanted to explore the mystical benefits of combat. Like, battling wasn't his only compassion. He had a passion for writing. He was a novelist, and mostly saw battling as a side compassion to him. He studied often with Twilight and Sparkle when they were fools. However, Twilight and Comic mostly only studied and didn't consider each other friends until later. Comic grew up and mostly wrote. However, Comic secretly nabbed a book of dark magic in order to study it and find out more about it. During the attack by Nightmare Moon, he fled to Cloudsdale and met Mistyfield, who has no relation, by the way. They just happen to have the same last name. They both got married and had a son, Mangafield, who has yet to be used that much in the comic verse as of now, but that may change. That's when Comic Field did meet Twilight and his friend and her friends. Comic was considered Twilight's friend from then on. However, Comic was always too busy writing and studying to help the main six with any big events such as Discord or Tyrek. It wasn't until 9 years later, when Twilight Sparkle became princess and monarch of Equestria, when Comic started being more involved with equestrian politics, especially after a parliament of Equestria was formed shortly after Twilight's coronation. One day, the field nobility were invited to a party in Canterlot, and they all had a good time, so Comic started getting headaches, and then a sudden attempt on Twilight Sparkle's life was made by an assassin. But Comic pinned him down and killed him with a silver fork brought from home. The fork was a two-headed fork and had really sharp ends intended to carve meat. The fork was used to carve and destroy the flesh of the assassin, though. For that, Twilight made Comic her personal guard, and since then, Comic had been protecting her. However, the leader of the assassin was one known as Alduis Slate. He led the Dramatic Syndicate, an anti-monarchist terrorist organization bent on destroying the kingdoms of Earth and Equus alike. Aldous had brutally killed Comic Field's wife, and as a result, Comic and manga grew into a deep depression. Comic, as a result, joined the military like his ancestor, Novel, and pledged to destroy all enemies of Equestria, especially after Spike found the Dramatic Syndicate in the first place. A long war was fought between Equestria and the Syndicate, and eventually Aldous had found the Black Magic Book and showed Twilight Sparkle, and also exposed her secret heirs, Sunshine and Moonlight Sparkle. After much fighting, Comic had apprehended Aldous and burned the Black Magic Book. Aldous is now in prison, and Comic was officially a hero and a general. Since then, Comic had been dabbling in other affairs such as the 10th Mortal Kombat tournament, but Comic has mostly left himself alone. And that's basically the backstory of Comic Field. For more information, go check out the Comicverse wiki in the description, and I'll make more of these videos. I'm thinking next time I might cover what's going on currently on Earth. See you next time.